On a cold December night in 1941, an artist stood on the sidewalk in Manhattan, gazing through the plate glass window of an all-night diner. He saw a couple at the counter, a man on the other side, someone else serving coffee. What could be more commonplace? But something struck him as exceptional about this scene. It expressed a particular kind of alienation. His name was Edward Hopper, and his defining painting, Nighthawks, one of the most admired images of the 20th century. When Hopper set out to capture a very American loneliness, he chose to do so in a diner. Edward Hopper was not alone in seeing the potential in the diner. Writers, musicians, photographers, all the greatest American artists have been drawn to it at some point. Quentin Tarantino was just one filmmaker to set great epiphanies within its leatherette booths in his Americana masterpiece Pulp Fiction.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
I'm heading across the States to find out what it is about the diner. You know, in westerns, there's always a frontier saloon, batwing doors, some old cowboy sinking 4 fingers of red-eye. Well, I've a theory that this place, the American Diner, is a bit like that Dodge City saloon. It preserves a vital fragment of the American spirit. I'm going in search of the beating heart of American culture. Or do I mean the fat-clogged heart? Either way, on my travels, I intend to eat nothing but honest-to-God, home-cooked diner chow.
Your blueberry pancakes, sir?
Thanks.
I wonder who wrote the book of love?
Hey, la ding dong, la lang a lang a lang, boom ba do, ba do ba do ba ba. Oh, life could be a dream.
My journey begins on the East Coast. Providence, Rhode Island is the perhaps unlikely birthplace of America's best-loved kitchen. It was here in 1872 that the first ever all-night mobile food carts served dinner on the curbside. Those first wagons dished up a diet of pies, coffee and cigars. They lined America's stomach for a drive-by blowout that has seen off a girth-troubling 22 billion meals to date.
Life could be a dream, if only on my best.
Providence is also where you'll find the oldest continuously running diner in history. The Haven Brothers Griddle on Wheels still parks up alongside City Hall every night. Since the 19th century, Haven Brothers Diner here has been selling these hot dogs. Well, not these hot dogs, obviously. But you know, what it reminds me of, chow on wheels, is the covered wagon that brought food to the men and women who made the American frontier. I'll eat to that. But it's after dark that the curbside kitchen really comes into its own. The diner began trading here initially to plug a gap in the market, catering to people who worked at night, government employees, reporters, lowlifes like that. And Haven Brothers is still a kind of beacon in the lonely American night.
I've been coming here since at least 30 years.
Really?
Yep. Come here, you know, late at night time.
Do you tend to have the same thing when you come
Yeah, I
in?
usually have a chicken sandwich or a hamburger or a hot dog. That's all.
Is it going to be a quiet night, Officer O'Rourke?
I hope so, because I'm going home.
Right.
I ain't going to worry about it
Who's out there
anymore.
to protect us then?
Well, the night crew's on
Okay,
now.
that's reassuring. Nice to meet you.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Though the diner began as a restaurant on the move, it wasn't long before it lost its wheels and was grounded.
People say a man is made out.
By the beginning of the 20th century, diners were no longer small mobile wagons. They were now static models produced in factories and hauled to permanent roadside destinations.
16 tons. What do you get? Another day older.
The diners' low overheads and not so fine dining ensured their survival throughout world wars, prohibition, even the Depression. Not far from Providence is one of the best preserved examples of this generation of stationary diner. The Modern in Pawtucket is a 1941 Stirling Streamliner.
Breakfast here.
Oh, okay.
Or whether you're going to just have a sandwich or
Maybe some
maybe
Joe.
a platter. Joe
Its
is
biggest
definitely
fan
in order.
is diner archaeologist Richard Gutman. Oh, now this really looks the part, doesn't it?
This is it.
Why do you like this one so much,
Well,
Richard?
first of all, it's one of the streamliners, so it's got the bullet-shaped
Oh, yeah.
nose.
It's like a train or something, isn't
It is,
it?
but it's not going anywhere.
No.
Immobilized in the landscape, but
Right.
it looks like it's in
It's
motion.
got some energy.
It does, it does.
Yeah.
It's got all the great materials. It's got a little bit of stainless steel back there, but mostly porcelain enamel and wood and chrome formica that shows a number of elbows have
Yeah.
rubbed against this
I would
counter.
say. And this is the equivalent of a listed building in the UK, isn't it?
This is the first diner that was ever put on the National Register of
that right?
Historic Places.
Was that your work or somebody
I
else?
did. No, you. Thank you very much.
You lobbied away,
I
your
was
congressman.
part of the team that,
Right.
that got this listed.
So no developer could come down here with a wrecking ball and just
Exactly.
flat.
Right.
Check it out.
Oh boy. I
There's
got
your
the
Reuben.
Reuben.
Yeah.
I'm going to be right back with your French fries.
Great.
My companion doesn't look like a man who spent 30 years putting himself outside a long line of turkey clubs. But clearly, he's someone who cannot rest until his work is done as the world's leading diner documentarian. Just round the corner, Richard's created a museum in the Johnson & Wales University. It's a 4,000 square foot trophy cabinet of diner memorabilia.
So we know where
It's
we're
lovely,
at.
isn't it? Art Deco.
Yes. Yes.
In his time, Richard's restored more than 80 abandoned luncheonettes. This is his latest orphaned eatery.
Built in a factory by the Worcester Lunch Car Company in 1926. Rolled in here on some forklifts. He took down the wall of the building and moved it in.
No kidding. And who's our friend here?
Larry is our short order cook. Excuse me, Larry. I first was interested in diners because of their architecture and the vernacular nature of them. They were built by Italian tile setters and marble workers, by German sheet metal workers and French-Canadian carpenters. It was a melting pot of these different cultures to produce a building that is uniquely American.
And they're often family businesses, aren't they?
They certainly are, yes. If Larry could speak, he would know that when I walked in, I wanted poached eggs on toast. But the thing about this democratic counter is that anyone can go in and sit down there. It can be a professor, it can be a high hat, it can be a worker. A friend of mine in Pennsylvania ate in a diner and he's in the middle of two guys. One guy's the chief of police and the other is just some character. And at one point in the conversation, the policeman looks over and says, "Didn't I arrest you last year for something?" And the guy said, "Yes, you did." And then they said, "Pass the ketchup."
Americans love the open road. Like their pioneering ancestors on the frontier, they've always looked west and relished the possibilities of travel and expansion. In the 1950s, the growth of the interstate meant that plenty of aluminium pit stops were springing up to service this new personal mobility. The shimmering surfaces reflecting back the era's defining spirit of optimism. That aspiration was reflected in the diner's menu. Diner food has always tended towards the, how to say it, the filling. Hello. I think I'll go for the Monster Burger with everything.
Yeah, thank you
you very
so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
That isn't a meal, that's a suicide bid.
Crazy,
Are you
right?
serious?
Yes.
Will you come and check on me in a while?
I'll come and check on you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Diner fare like this started out as cowboy chow, beans and grits doled out from the chuck wagon. If you laid the diner menu out end to end, it would be a great greasy highway of burgers, shakes, French toast and eggs over easy from sea to shining sea. And all swilled down with bottomless pots of stewed, watery coffee. Well, that's Otto's Monster Burger. That includes half the calories I will need for the rest of my life. But it's not all bad news. Hey, look, one of my 5 a day. What I'd like to ask. Diner owner Otto Meyer is the Dr. Frankenstein behind the Monster Burger. Otto, what would be your top 5 classic diner dishes?
Pancakes with sausage, your standard eggs over easy, with home fries and toast, with whatever breakfast meat. Definitely the cheeseburger deluxe, turkey club, and one other meatloaf dinner. You know, comfort food. Food made from recipes that like people's mothers used to make and just wanted to sort of parlay it into the diners. That's, you know, the diners started years ago for the blue collar worker, you know, and it just expanded over time to be more than that.
It's funny to think that just as the workwear denims worn by cowboys became the ubiquitous designer jeans, it's Mum's good old burgers and fries that have become the defining gastronomy of the world's superpower.
Oh, I got a gal and she is a daisy.
I'm heading to Massachusetts, to the hometown of one mid-century artist for whom the roadside restaurant would prove a shorthand for that very American comfort in abundance. This place is the Louvre, the National Gallery of Middle America. It's the repository of one of the country's most beloved and popular artists, if not the most popular and beloved, Norman Rockwell. He offered the States an idealized, even sentimentalized view of the place. He was the poet laureate of pot roast. Rockwell produced nearly 400 paintings in his lifetime, serving up scene after scene of small-town America in satisfying slices of comfort art.
Come softly, darling, come softly.
This is an extraordinary vision by Rockwell of down-home folksiness. It appears to be Thanksgiving or maybe Sunday lunch. Here's the lovely big plump turkey. And look at this groaning board, the gleaming cruet, the happy faces. But the most extraordinary detail of this painting is a tiny one, the date. It was painted in 1942. At the time, the war in the Pacific was raging. But this is Rockwell's message of reassurance. The troops, our boys, will be coming home to freedom from want. And if one thing stood for freedom from want, it was the abundant offerings of the diner. In 1958, Rockwell painted a cover for America's most widely circulated weekly magazine, the Saturday Evening Post. The Runaway is, for me, one of the most intriguing portrayals of the diner. It shows a young scamp on the lam from home who runs into a couple of strangers. It could be threatening, but Rockwell's version of life on the open road is anything but sinister. His diner's an inviting place with a kindly cop who, instead of busting your chops, treats you to a slice of pie and a ride home in his squad car. And if his characters have the look of the guy or the gal next door, that's because that's exactly who they were. If you lived in Stockbridge in the 50s, chances were you'd find yourself immortalised by Norman Rockwell. For The Runaway, Rockwell painted his state trooper neighbour and an 8-year-old from the local school. They've grown up a bit now, but the subjects of the painting are still alive and well. Gentlemen, what are your memories of that day with Norman Rockwell?
Well, I recall the day he had contacted me and they set a date. Mr. Rockwell was there and his photographer was there. Mr. Rockwell gave instructions to us on how he wanted us to sit or to pose.
I think he had pretty much had a firm idea of what he had in mind and just wanted to make sure that that's what was going to appear on the paper.
Did he buy you an ice cream?
I got paid a whopping $10.
Of course, you couldn't have been paid.
$10.
You got $10 as well?
$10 as well.
Into the Police Benevolent Fund?
No, not really.
Really? Okay. Well, we'll draw a veil over that. So what do you think, fellas? Shall we have a go at trying to recreate this masterpiece?
We could.
So, Eddie, you were to the right of Richard. And we need our friend behind the counter. Just resting on the counter, that's right. If you could just be looking at Eddie in a kind of avuncular way, that's good. And can you sort of slump down in the chair a little bit? That's good.